Okay, let's talk about Django messages. So a message is basically a way to send a little bit of information from one page to another, but it only does it once. So if you're familiar with the idea of sessions, basically it creates a session, and once that session is accessed, it deletes it. And so we want to add a little message, a little session, and when someone fills out this form and it takes them back to this page, it should say, hey, you successfully added an image. And this is really, really easy to do. This comes baked in with Django 3 automatically. So let's open up our editor here, and let's open up feedviews.py. And first things first, let's go ahead and import. We want to do from django.contrib, I believe, contrib, import messages. Now, if you're learning Django and you're working with an existing Django project, you have to go into your settings and make sure that messages is in there. So if we open up our settings and type in messages, Django contrib messages is in our installed apps. It's in our middleware, and it is also in our template context processors, which means it can be added to every single template. Doesn't matter what your template is, it can just be automagically added. And so you need to make sure you have those in there. So for now, we're going to do from django.contrib import messages, scroll on down to our form. And when that new object is created, let's add a new message. And so we can add a new message with message.addMessage. It takes a request by default. Let's do messages.success. There's different types. We'll take a look in just a moment at the docs. Your post was successful. And let's type in Django messages docs, the messages framework. And so it tells us that we need to have all this stuff set up in our middleware, installed apps, context processors, etc., etc. Storage backgrounds, message levels. Okay, so this is where I got messages.success. And is it messages? It's messages. That's what I imported. Messages.addMessage, messages.success. And this is where I got success from. So if it was successful, I'm going to give a success message. And this is going to be accessible in our template. If there was an info one, we could use messages.info, debug, warning, or error. So we have these 5 options. I'm going to go with success because I know that that is going to work well with Bootstrap, because Bootstrap usually has I think it's bg-success or text.-success, something like that. So I know that I think actually all of these might work except for debug, but I want the success color one down the road. And yeah, if we go down into message tags, it actually tells us. So success is going to give us the tag success, and that's going to be put into our HTML CSS attribute, our class attribute. And then how do we do this? It says adding a message. So we import our message. We did that already. Messages.addMessage. It takes request as its first parameter. A message type. Is it info, success, debug, error, etc. And then the message itself. And so here are a few different examples. And when we want to display messages, we can simply copy and paste this. Let's do this. For the time being, this is going to be fine. We can clean this up a little bit later. So let's save this. And let's go into templates, base.html. Let's close that database one. And because this is accessible in every single template, because it's in a context processor, which means it's accessible in every template, we can now say, if there are messages, create a list, an unordered list, and then loop through every message with an li. It says if there's message tags, add the tags in here. That's going to be the success or debug, or what were the other ones? Info, success, warning, error, and debug, and if, and then the message itself. So it's going to loop through all of them. We can have multiple messages. That's important to know, and that's why we're looping through these. Now let's go ahead and give this a try, and I'm going to show you that this actually has some form of an error. This is going to not work. And I'll just select any image. And it says, uh-oh, name error, name request is not defined. Now, here's the tricky thing, and you're going to want to take note of this because moving forward, this is going to be a lifesaver. So the first parameter in add message is request. If we go back to our code here, in form valid, we don't have request. We have self and we have form. So how do we get request? We're in a form view here. Let's take a look at where request exists. Get, when you get the form. So when you're displaying the form, you could access the request there. Dispatch, HTTP method not allowed, options, post, and setup. And so what we want here is we actually want dispatch. So when this view is being dispatched, when it's about to be rendered, what is it going to do? And so let's go ahead and just copy this line. And because it has request in here, but our method in here, form valid, does not have request, what we can do is def dispatch self request args quargs. I literally just copied that from here. Def dispatch self request args quargs. Return super dot dispatch request args and quargs. And so literally at this point in time, we're saying, hey, Django, we know you have a dispatch method. I just want to let you know that I want you to use that dispatch method. Honestly, this is pointless, but it becomes less pointless when we do this. Self.request is equal to that request object. And because we're in a class, we can use self.request anywhere else. So now we can type self.request here because it's being accessed here. Dispatch gets run before form valid does. So it's going to set this for us, and then we can access self.request down the road. Let's go ahead and try this out. Let's just refresh this page, generate a new message. And I'm just going to grab any image, it doesn't really matter. And it says your post was successful. And that's coming from our base.html. It's in an unordered list. And let's right click and inspect this. We have a UL with a class of messages. We have an LI with a class of success, and in it has your post was successful. We have a UL class of messages. It's going to loop through every message. We've got an LI with message tag, message.tags. That was success. That comes from here. And then the message itself is your post was successful. It says the message in there. And that's all there is to adding messages. So really, all we need to do is type messages.addMessage. It takes a request. It has to take that exact request object. It takes some sort of message type or a tag. So we're saying messages.success because this was successful, and then our message itself. In our base template, because we want this to show up on any page, it doesn't matter where, we want it to show up on any page. We're going to say if there are messages, cool, loop through those messages and display them. Now watch this, when I go back here and I refresh this page, that message goes away. It's very temporary. It only exists once.